Hi, I'm Jim with Marine Electronics Installation. Today we're going to talk about marine stereos. We've been doing a lot of marine stereos lately. I thought this would be a good subject because unlike 10, 15 years ago when you bought a stereo and put a couple speakers in your boat, stuck a FM antenna on it, maybe put a cassette player in if you really wanted to get fancy, things have changed a lot. Now we're looking at Bluetooth, subwoofers, amplifiers, lit speakers, XM radio, all sorts of stuff that has changed and advanced a lot just in the last few years. But to get started, first of all, we'll just talk about some of the general parts that you need. A lot of these are optional parts you don't have to have music or news or to listen to your favorite talk shows or sports. But anyhow, some of the parts that you're going to need, a stereo itself, or a head unit, as some of the old school people still like to call it. That is the number one piece of equipment you want to look at. You're also going to need some speakers, possibly subwoofers if you want a lot of bass, amplifiers if you put subwoofers in, antennas of some sort are an option, an FM antenna or XM antenna, although some installs we're not even doing antennas anymore because people are strictly using Bluetooth. So those are some different things to think about. Remote controls, wired remotes. If you have a fly bridge, you want to control the sound from up on the fly bridge along with being able to control it from down at the lower station. Or if you're in a large boat, you have a salon in the back and some sleeping quarters up front, living area in the center, and you want to have 3 different zones with separate volume controls. That's another thing to consider. But we'll go over some of this stuff. And first of all, I want to start talking about brands. What we install most of right now is Fusion and Sony. Not saying that they're the best, that's just the majority of our installations. There's a lot of brands out there. There's Dual, there's Boss, there's Kenwood, JL Audio. We can even do like Sonic hubs, which are made by the manufacturer, like Simrad or Lowrance. Garmin made a Meteor system for years. I believe it's still available. A lot of these can have multiple zones, so you can control volumes in different areas, which I mentioned earlier. Wired remotes are an option on some of them, but not all of them. XM, Sirius, stereo is another option. Bluetooth, so you can use your iPhone or Android phone or tablet or iPod. We can get wired stereos iPods will plug directly into. It will charge at the same time as you can listen to your music. NEMA 2000 connections to chart plotters, and also a fairly new option with some of the stereos. Some of the stereos and some of the chart plotters, if you have compatible brands, will allow you to change volume and stations and control the stereo from the chart plotter. So that can be a valuable option. If you're at the main helm, you want to turn the volume up or down up front in the boat, you can do that from the chart plotter on some of the models. They have to be interfaced to do that, of course, but that is something that can be done with certain stereos and chart plotters. Speakers. Main speakers are normally in pairs of 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe more on a larger boat. Subwoofers can be individual or can also be in pairs. So one thing you got to watch about speakers is make sure they fit your boat. A lot of times someone will hand us some speakers to put in a boat. They might hand us a pair of 8-inch speakers, but there's only room for 6-inch speakers to fit in the locations that they want. Another thing that's overlooked quite often is the depth of the magnet on the speaker. Subwoofers, real particular with subwoofers, they're physically large, they're heavy, they require an amplifier. You may have to add a battery to your boat also if you start adding amplifiers to the system, depending upon your battery system that's existing in your boat. Most subwoofers, even sealed and free air subwoofers, both really need some type of enclosure to work well. So we can put them inside of a console. A console has a sealed up door. We can put them inside of a storage area, possibly if the storage area is in front of the boat, the speaker can be installed where it faces back and use a storage area for the box. So really, before you put a subwoofer in a boat, you really need to look at the space you have and see if it will work and what size subwoofer would work in the boat. Remote controls, wired remote controls, another thing you need to consider if you're looking at a larger boat or possibly a boat with a fly bridge or a tower, and you're going to have speakers up there and at the main helm or in the main salon. Also, you may want to consider a remote control, or at least interface the stereo to the chart plotter so that you have volume control and tuning control in more than one location. So to kind of sum up the video, the goal here is when you decide you want a stereo in your boat, you need to think about what you're going to do with that stereo. What are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to sports, you're going to listen to music, you want to listen to news. That will be the first guide, because that's going to tell you what type of antenna system that you need. If you need XM to listen to your sports that you hear, you're going to need to buy a radio that's compatible with XM, and a lot of times it takes additional equipment. Black box and an antenna need to be added. If you're just going to listen to music, you might be fine using Bluetooth on your phone. If it's an inshore boat, a flats boat, you're just going to stay, close to land where your cell phone's going to work. You may not need an antenna at all. Just get a Bluetooth stereo. So that's the first thing, is just figure out what you want to listen to on your stereo and purchase a stereo that is capable of that. The next thing to think about is, do you need a remote, or do you need to control this through your chart plotter somehow because you have a larger boat, or you want to have separate zones? So when buying the stereo, think about that also. You need to have that compatibility on the radio itself if you're going to have separate zones. Subwoofer, you need to think, are you going to need a subwoofer? Are you going to want to add a subwoofer or two subwoofers? Room is a big constraint in smaller boats. You need to make sure there's plenty of room for not only the subwoofer, but the amplifier and possibility of adding another battery if you need it. So these are some major things to consider before you make the purchase of your stereo. And sometimes it's better if you're having it installed, have your installer stop by, take a quick look at the boat, maybe take some measurements and discuss what will fit into your boat. I've seen too many times people go out and buy a pack or something that's on sale, and then call, and then we get to the boat and we go, oh no, we got bad news, this won't fit your boat, you'll have to return it and get something different. So the idea here is to avoid that. Hopefully this is a little bit of information that'll help you avoid that problem. And like I say, we're planning on maybe doing a couple more videos here in the future to get into more details on the stereos and what they'll do and some of the different models, and maybe subwoofers and amplifiers too. So hopefully we'll be doing some more of that in the future, and I hope that this is a good start on answering any questions you have. Thank you for watching.